recenter. Let's refocus. Let's get back into it. Let's get into it, folks, because a lot to cover. Yes, we went over the Israeli War Cabinet unanimously deciding to go into Rafah, which, you know, the thing that they said they were definitely going to do, and Biden said, don't do that. And boy, would you know it, were they just pissing their pants.
This is problem. Hamas leaders tonight said
that bad situation. Thank you for another good sub.
Egypt and Qatar, which is believed could involve the exchange of Palestinian prisoners for 33 Israeli hostages held since the October the 7th attacks. A ceasefire would be welcome respite for many tens of thousands of Palestinians sheltering in southern Gaza, and would be the first pause in the 7-month war since a week-long truce back in November.
Yeah, so Bibi is gonna, Biden's gonna hold Bibi accountable, right? Right? Yeah, I'm sure Biden, after all of the, you know, red lines, don't do this, don't do that, and then they just did it, like right in front of their face, like a cat sitting on the counter, and there being a coffee mug, and you're like, hey, don't push that over, and the cat's like, oh, this? Don't push this. Don't do it, kitty. And they're just... And what are you going to do?
Southern city of Rafah, and tonight continued to bomb the area. 100,000 refugees have been told to move to what Israel is calling an expanded humanitarian zone near Khan Yunis.
Yeah. Expanded humanitarian zone. The thing about that is, you would have to have any humanitarian zones for it to be expanded. You would have to have one. Because keep in mind, this like, oh, that we don't want an invasion of Rafah. There is a legal distinction, I suppose, between like a ground invasion and air raids, but they've been bombing Gaza for months. Back in November, the Rafah crossing was getting bombed. While aid was coming in and people were trying to like flee into Egypt, the Rafah crossing was getting bombed. So if anyone is surprised, 7 months now to the day that it's still happening, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yunis, but Gazans say the area is already overcrowded. Fergal Keane has more details.
They haven't had reason to dance for a long time, but they haven't forgotten how. Even amid uncertainty about Israel's position, hope springs.
This is the fucked up part about it. Beyond like the human casualties, you know, beyond the death toll, like giving the Palestinian people a little bit of hope and then robbing them of that, just salt in the gaping wound at this point. If you're looking for humanity in the region, this is where you'll find it. Exactly.
Ceasefire. Israelis are still absorbing the news. It came late on one of this society's most important...
Bro, I'm sorry. Like, it's a sick society. I make no, like qualms about it. It's a sick society where there is abject poverty and officially famine. Like, if you ask me, like, the bar for what constitutes, like, official famine is horseshit. Just like how we measure poverty, right? Especially in America. Where it's like, oh, you're only in poverty if you're making less than $19,000 a year. It's like, no, you're definitely in poverty if you're making like $30,000 or less. Let's be real. But also, if the news of hostages coming home, the whole thing that all of the Zionist apologists and, you know, genocide enjoyers have been running with makes you like weep in the streets that, no, why are they doing this? It's a deeply deranged society. And keep in mind, that's also not the fault of the citizenry. This is not to like abdicate them from their own personal like worldviews, but they didn't just fall out of a coconut tree. You know, that derangement comes from somewhere. It is a meticulous system of propaganda and indoctrination that would make someone go, oh, a ceasefire? Hamas agreed to it? Oh man, what's the world coming to? Does that mean we're going to have to stop killing children?
Trauma can begin with a ceasefire deal and the release of Israel's hostages.
We expect from the Israeli government to take this deal to save all the remaining hostages who are still alive.
But after 7 months of a war in which Israel's army pledged to destroy Hamas, a ceasefire deal that fails to accomplish that risks breaking Israel's wartime coalition government.
At a school, yes, that's the UN school, where they did kill a bunch of children. They did do that, right? But all the videos of them shooting, they're not doing combat against Hamas. They had already killed a bunch of children, and they're just doing, war propaganda.
We examine every proposal very seriously, and we review every possibility on the issue of negotiations and the return of the hostages to their
Except for, accepting the ceasefire agreement.
homes as quickly as possible and as a central task. At the same time, we carry on with our operations in the Gaza Strip and will continue to do so.
Yeah, their detonation team said that they've become addicted to explosions, which is not uncommon in EOD teams, explosive ordnance disposal. Like, that's not terribly uncommon. But whenever the addicted to explosions is exploding entire neighborhoods with people in it, then it becomes a problem. It's hard for me to forgive the U.S. citizens due to how inept our propaganda around Israel has appeared to me. I thought about this today as I was prepping stuff for the show, and it didn't click when we first watched it the other day, when there was a interview with one of the NYPD officers that was on Morning Joe, talking about the Columbia student protesters and how they were reading. It was like a book on terrorism, right? Not like a how-to guide, but a book on the academic study of what terrorism is, right? And immediately it rang in my brain as I saw a thumbnail for it this morning. Oh, they're doing the Arabic Mein Kampf. They're doing the exact same memes. That's like a one-to-one. Look what we found in the encampment. It's a book on how to do a terrorism.
This morning, the people of eastern Rafah woke to leaflets telling them to evacuate. Many have been displaced before.
We have our children, my wife, my mom, the whole family, the old and the young. We are all here and we don't know where to go.
To Al-Mawasi, Israel says, are desolate places beyond Rafah. The so-called humanitarian zones were to be expanded, but they've never been safe from sickness, hunger, or war. Late tonight, Israel attacked eastern Rafah, where they told people to leave. Celebration had turned to fear, and the hope that tomorrow might bring peace. Fergal Keane, BBC News.
The jig is up. How Hamas is greatly outnumbered. 90% is jailed or dead. Let's pretend for a moment that this is true. Rabbi Jacob Shmuel. Let's pretend for a second, despite zero confirmation from any independent or international third-party organizations to confirm what the Israeli government is saying when they say shit like this. Why continue to kill civilians? Seems like you did it, Joe. No balls chatter? Yeah, of course. Zionists always do this. They come in, they say some stupid shit, and then they leave. Let's continue our coverage. Let's go over to Al Jazeera. Israeli army takes control of Rafah crossing. What strategic value does it bring to just run over all this shit? What is the strategic value of just firing off rounds into nothing, other than scaring the fuck out of people who are sheltering in that area? Yeah, saving the hostages. I don't give a fuck about the hostages. Morale? I mean, that is the real reason, right? It's morale, it's vengeance, it's bloodlust, it's blood and soil. That's the real reason. Israeli forces moved into Rafah on Monday night. You don't understand? All of Hamas was under that sign. I'm so fucking depressed, man. Also, what's up, Kaisa? An IOF speaker literally said, when asked about the TikTok war crime videos, that the soldiers are bored and want to have some fun. Yeah. Yeah. Hamas is accepting the Egyptian-Qatari ceasefire deal. More than 1.5 million displaced Palestinians are sheltering in Rafah. Israel's military has ordered them to move once again. Like, if I were to lay out the totality of what... Here, you know what? I don't even have to. Here's what it's like. Short clip of showing what it means to be alive under Israeli genocide in Gaza for the past 215 days. I don't even have to explain it. Here, somebody already did it.
Happening the past 215 days of this genocide. Watch. Remember when they told everyone to move down south? It's going to be safe down south. Watch.
Like, people are still hiding and sheltering in these areas, even though the partition has already been built and concentration camps have been built in these areas and outside the border wall.
The crazy part is, I showed you guys this 135 days into this genocide. We are 80 more days into this genocide, and we are literally witnessing the same.
Israel is now at the Rafah crossing. You think they're going to let 1.5 million Palestinians cross into the Sinai like they originally said? Why doesn't Egypt take them? Why doesn't Egypt just let them go into the Sinai? We'll set up refugee camps. You think that now that they're occupying the Rafah crossing, that they're just going to let them go? They're just pushing them into the sea. Egypt doesn't want a permanent population of refugees. Egypt also doesn't want to calcify the ethnic cleansing. 30 seconds of full truth. What is this?
أنا قتلتين هل اللي قتلهن روح اقتلوا أنا قتلتين شو بدك أقول لك أنا بالنسبة للندمين اللي هناك جندب يعني الناس بدعس علي شو أبو ليش يا جنرال بعرف شو بعرفني أنا جبتهن اغتصاب روح كل أمريكا تبعك ولا بريطانيا ولا إيطاليا ولا فرنسا ولا بلجيكا ولا هولندا ولا بولندا ولا ألمانيا ولا اليونان